Hey guys, this is Kevin from JazTime.com, and today we'll be doing a comparison between the Rolex Datejust reference number 116334 versus the Rolex Two Tone Submariner reference number 11666313LN. And I'll be letting you know we'll be comparing the case, the bezel, the dial, the bracelets, the class, the movement, and then we'll talk about a couple of special features that these watches have. Okay, so with the Datejust, the case size is 41 millimeters in diameter, and that's the size from my index fingers to my thumb. So that's 41 millimeters right there. And the Submariner is a tiny bit smaller, being 40 millimeters in diameter from right here and here. They both have a super case, so what that means is that the lugs on the bottom here, on both these cases, and additionally on the top, specifically for the Submariner, we have additional lugs right here protecting the crown. These lugs are much thicker, along with the weight. It feels a little bit heavier, and it makes the watch overall look a lot more beefier. I would definitely recommend these watches to someone who has large wrists, because they fit much more nicely on larger wrists. Now you're thinking, is there any real difference between the cases? Well, like I mentioned before, the only real difference between these two cases, since they're very similar cases, is that 1 millimeter in size difference, and the fact that the Submariner has additional lugs against the crown right here on the right. Let me get a little closer look here. As you can see there, they protect the crown from being damaged. Okay, so let's move on to the dial now. The Datejust dial has luminous index markers, as you can see all around. It is luminous index markers on the hands as well. On the Submariner, we have Rolex's Maxi dial, which means that as we have the usual circular dial markers as known for the Submariners with index markers at the 6, 9, and 12 position, they're a little bit larger for easier reading. But additionally, the hands, as you can see, the two hands compared together, the hand on the Datejust is much thinner. The luminous marker is much thinner as well, but the Submariner is much larger, much thicker, more prominent, along with the hour hand as well. As you can see, the Datejust hands are very thin. Okay, however, they both are luminous at all markers and hands. The glow that is provided by these markers can last up to 8 hours. Okay, so the bracelets, in terms of links, are pretty much completely the same. As you can see here, this is the Datejust bracelet, and the links. It has a satin finish on the outer portions and a high polish in the center. As you can see, that's a steel high polish. When we pull in the Submariners, we can see that the Submariners has the satin finish as well on the outside, and it has instead a gold polish in the center. They are similar in that sense that they both have high polishes in the center and has satin finishes at the end. Mainly because the contrast of the satin versus the high polish gives a very nice shine to the high polish. It brings it out much more. However, the difference between those two high polishes is that gold is a much more malleable. Gold is much more malleable of a metal. So that means that if you're to get scuffs on either one of these, they both will have show scuffs much more easily. But the gold will get more scuffs overall because it is a much softer metal. Okay, so let's move on to the class now. As you can see here, oops, the class. These are the class. The Datejust here, it has a smaller class, while the Submariner has a much larger class. Both class still keeps that satin finish and high polish in the center. But the difference between these two is that the Datejust is a very simple folding oyster class, as I'll demonstrate now. You see here, all you have to do is just pop it open like that. Very simple, very easy to use. Has a high polish in the center with the Rolex name engraved on there. Is very simple. As we go on to the Submariner, this one, as you can see, much larger. It is more durable because the class on this one is called the Safety Folding Oyster Lock. What that means is that you still have that same simple folding oyster right here, as like what the Datejust, except that there's an additional latch at the top right here that you just press down and it locks that oyster in. Additionally, another feature that the Submariner has over the Datejust is right here. This is called the easy to use glide lock. All you have to do is just pop open the bracelet as shown. See, it pops out and you can actually just pull it to where you want it to be for adjustment of the bracelet. This is a very nice feature, as you know, as it gets hot outside, your wrist starts to swell and you want to, you know, loosen up the watch a little bit so you can give your wrist a little more room to breathe in, so it isn't too uncomfortable. Same with cold weather. When your wrist gets a little bit tighter, you want to tighten it up a little bit so that way it doesn't bounce around everywhere. So that's a really nice feature that the Submariner has that the Datejust doesn't. The Datejust, unfortunately, in order to adjust the Datejust, you have to actually get additional links or remove additional links. It doesn't have that same glide lock feature. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about the class. So let's move on to the case backs now. So the case back, as you can see, is very simple fluted oyster case back, and this is the Datejust. Okay, and this is the Submariner's case back. Again, once again with that simple fluted oyster case. This is where the movements are housed. Unfortunately, you can't see the movement itself, so I'm going to go ahead and describe the differences in their movements. So the Datejust runs on a 31-36 movement, which allows the tracking of the hour, minute, the seconds hand. And additionally, it allows the feature of that quick set date feature. Besides that, it's just a very simple movement. It has very simple movement. Okay, so moving on to the Submariner. The Submariner runs on an older movement. It's a 31-35 movement, and it's similar to the 31-36 movement, except that the 36 movement has a higher performance Paraflex shock absorbers, meaning that if you're roughly bumped into, or if you fell or got into something that would cause, you know, obviously a large shock, the Datejust will keep the time. The Datejust will keep the time much more accurately than the Submariner would, because the Submariner is running on older shock absorbers. With that said, they are both COSC certified, meaning that they only have a loss or gain of +2, -2 seconds a day. And now let's move on to talking about the bezels. Okay, so it's very apparent that the bezels are different. As you can see, the Datejust has a very nice fluted white gold bezel. As I mentioned before, white gold in general is very soft and malleable, so it's kind of a downside that it is made out of the white gold. So if you were to bump into it, it get damaged more easily. But besides that, it glistens very nicely under the light. It kind of like if you were to sit in a car and this sunlight were to hit the bezel itself, it'll make a nice little disco going around in your car. It's very, very reflective and very nice. And the Submariner is running a black ceramic bezel with an hour cycle indicated. Also very nice. It's a very bold color, opposed to the shiny bezel of the Datejust. Unfortunately, the downside of having a ceramic bezel is that if you were to get scuffs or you to damage it, it's more susceptible to damage in the sense that if you were to crack the ceramic bezel, it's much harder to replace. You'd have to probably replace the whole bezel along with getting scuffs. So you got a scuff, let's just say around closer to the hour markers, or the minute markers rather, and you try to polish the scuffs out. You might end up polishing out these markers themselves and end up ruining the bezel, as opposed to the fluted bezel, high polished fluted bezel of the Datejust, which not necessarily is easier to polish out as it is fluted, and you can't really polish out the fluted bezel because you might end up just evening out the bezel rather than keeping this nice flutedness. So like I said, it is easier to scuff up the bezel on this one. However, it is much easier to replace overall than trying to replace this ceramic bezel. Okay, so moving on to special features. They both have a quick set date feature, meaning that the dates on the 3 o'clock positions are easily adjusted by the crown. So that means you don't have to wind both the hands all the way around the 24-hour cycle in order to change the date just once. Besides that, the Datejust doesn't have any special features. Besides that, it keeps to a very simple, classic, just very good dress watch, just being very simplistic. However, the Submariner comes with an additional feature, and that's the bezel. And as I mentioned before, the bezel keeps track of minutes. So this is 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and 60 for a full hour cycle with individual markers to count down minutes. And what that means is that, let's just say you want to go on a dive, you want to go on for a jog, you want to track how long you've been gone. Let's say the minutes is right now at the 25. So all you have to do, it's a unidirectional bezel, so you only can move it in one direction. You would just have to adjust it there, and however much time the minute hand elapses, that's how much time you've been gone, or that's how much time you've taken to do that certain thing. So a little neat feature to keep track of time on that. And now let me go ahead and try to show you these on my wrist. So give me 1 second here. See, so once again, simple oyster clasp. Nice and easy to press on, nice and easy to put on, and a little more of a hassle on this one because you have to pop open this lock and pop open the oyster. Then you have to get it on your wrist. See, oyster, and then safety lock. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so both are very nice watches. They're both high quality Swiss watches. Are looking just absolutely gorgeous under the light, and just overall their looks are very nice. Okay, so when it comes to the decision of which watch to purchase, really, it just boils down to, what do you like? You know, so what kind of watch are you looking for? Are you looking for everyday use watch? Are you looking for a special occasions watch? Do you do a lot of sports? Do you do a lot of running around? I mean, which watch would be more effective which watch would be more effective in your life in general? So let's just say you want a special occasions watch, very simple, very simplistic. You just want to take it off, take it off, put it on. You don't want it to weigh you down as much. Go with the Datejust. Look at this. It has a nice fluted bezel, shines very nicely, keeps a very simple oyster bracelet. Like I said, you can just take it off very easily by popping it out, locking it back on. Very simple. It doesn't weigh too heavy on the wrist, and just overall feels nice. As you can see, the crystal is also very flat and will fit under a suit cuff very nicely there. But let's just say you do a lot of sports, you got a lot of running around to do. You're always, fumbling around and running around, and you need that extra, durability of the clasp. As you can see, once again, let me show you again. Safety oyster clasp, man. Look at that. Very simple. Locks in very nicely. Very durable watch. Has the extra crown, has a crown protection there on the right with the extra lugs. And it's just a very bold colors with the gold and black. It just looks very nice. So for whatever you decide to choose, just go ahead and check us out at JazTime.com. We offer the lowest price guarantee, a 1-year warranty, and free shipping. If you want to check out any of our other videos, please leave a comment below and hit the like and subscribe button. We got lots more to show you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys soon.